Hi and welcome to the Active Code podcast, brought to you by Aspire Active Partnerships. I'm Paul Griffiths, and joining me each week on the pod is Luke Johnson.
Aspire Active Partnerships is a community of like-minded business leaders who all believe that collaboration in the sports coaching and children's activity sector is essential for success. We've proven that working in collaboration does benefit business growth and essentially helps more children be more active more often.
Organisations will only operate to high standards if they are led well. So, if we can focus on developing high-quality leaders throughout an organisation, not just at the top, customers will experience higher quality services, which means heightened enjoyment levels and increased levels of physical activity. And if we do this at an early age, we know that we can build the foundations for a more active, happier and healthier life. The Active Code investigates what it really takes to be a successful leader and how organisations can combat physical inactivity.
We won't be alone through this journey. We are joined by business owners and experts from our sector, as well as inspirational people from outside our industry. We'll understand the importance of physical activity to our guests, reflect on leadership experiences, and gain thought-provoking insights on how we can crack the Active Code and get more children more active more often. If you like what you hear, please leave us a rating and subscribe.
Welcome to the Active Code podcast. It's great to have you with us.
Hi, Luke. Hi, Paul. Nice to see you.
Yeah, it's brilliant to have you on this episode, Ben. To start with, for our listeners, can you take us back to the very beginning in terms of what inspired you to start Future Stars Coaching, and what was your vision when you first launched?
Sport was a kind of big passion of mine growing up. My dad was fortunate enough to play, was at Bristol Rugby Club when he was younger and played one game for them before he did his ACL. So yeah, I grew up around sport. My mum was a netball player. My dad was an athlete as well. So that was really where kind of the passion for sport came from. I'm predominantly a failed rugby player who wanted to be a pro and realized at 16 that I wasn't going to be good enough to make it as a career. But still loved it and loved everything to do with sport. So the kind of big driver was my mum was a PE teacher within a school, so a PE lead within a primary school. My dad was a teacher and a qualified PE teacher, and then went off to be head of sport for South Gloss Council and developed a team from there. So kind of that's where it probably stems back from. And then what really happened is I qualified to be a coach back when I was 19. I did an apprenticeship in South Gloss Council and then went and worked for Bristol Rugby Club, Gloucester Cricket Club, doing some coaching for them, and something called the Breakthrough Project, which was mentoring disengaged, dyslexia children. And just saw the opportunity, especially within my mum's school, what the quality of provision at that point back in 2009, and just thought there was an opportunity to kind of do something and add some quality within that sector. I'm really trying to create club school links with the local rugby club. And then we linked that up to the professional rugby club, which was Bristol Rugby Club, and I was doing some work for at the time.
Amazing. And you mentioned you did an apprenticeship back in the day.
Yeah.
How would you say apprenticeships have changed from then until now?
It was the only one that I could find. Luckily, my dad was in accounts at that point, and he actually worked and set one up. So I kind of was in the know if I came back from traveling after a year traveling when I was 19. I'd worked in an office before that and realized there's no way I could work in an office for the rest of my life. And that was the only one that I could find. There wasn't really anything else back then. I mean, we're talking, what was that, 2005, I think it was. So we're talking 20 years ago now. And they put together things like looking at safeguarding and protecting children. Then we did a multi-sports level 2. We did laser courses around the ABCs, so agility, balance, coordination. And I was really privileged by the setup that they had there, that they linked with Westport, for example, when they linked with the local university, to really provide a course that you didn't just see one of sport, you saw all the different sports. But look, how it's progressed now. We've had 5 apprentices for the last 12 years going through apprenticeship programs. This just develops as you go on. I mean, I'm sat today in the office and we've got the local college provider here who's meeting all of our apprentices today and looking at their coursework, etc. So it just developed tenfold from the one that I did, but I did enjoy every moment of it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you mentioned quite a few kind of key relationships you had with local sports clubs, or whether it's even your parents giving that advice. But back in the early days, then when you did set up a business, what were some of the biggest challenges that you had to face, and how did you really push through them at the time?
Yeah, I remember going for a beer with a friend who just set up a coaching company a year before. And he basically just said to me, "What are you doing?" He said, "Just get on with it. Just go around and speak to the schools." So the hurdle was obviously connecting with the schools. I actually went the next day after going out for a beer with him the day before and just walked around all the schools within my village, which is Clevedon in North Somerset, and went and met every head teacher. And I was fortunate that out of the 6 primary schools in the area, finding them saying yes, we set up an after school club that day for the next for the next term. And so one of it was the challenges. Luckily, I'd worked within quite a lot of the schools, so I was already known. So I'd already built kind of a relationship working through Bristol Rugby Club with those schools and the head teachers. The other big challenge really was I was coaching full time. So it was working out how we're going to run 5 after school clubs. And for me, I was like, oh, they've all said yes, that's great. And then I was like, actually, I can't even do that coaching because I'm currently coaching and I was in down school in Wrexham coaching there for those days. So it was the biggest challenge was trying to engage someone on the journey when you're fresh off kind of an idea and then going, okay, well, you're going to give me 5 hours of work and an hour every night. How's that going to work for me from a logistic point of view? So staff was really the issue. I was very fortunate that I was only 23, so I was still playing a lot of sport. I was playing for Clevedon Rugby Club. So I had a lot of contacts in that world and a lot of younger people and a network that I was friends with, that there was people who wanted to just get a job doing something that seemed fun. So they were happy to kind of step in and do something just for 5 hours a week to start with. But that was the biggest challenge, to be honest. And then trading that person up with your kind of taking what you've learned and then positioning it with a coach to train him on how to do it. That was the biggest challenge.
There's so many things there, Ben, you've mentioned that just kind of, I'm sitting here with a big smile on my face because that pretty much sounds similar to the journey that I went through and a lot of people have gone through in our sector. So kind of really does hit home on that. You kind of roll back the years and think kind of where we started all of this off. And I think the really interesting one here, isn't it? The fact is that rarely do you actually sign up to become a business owner and a leader of an organisation. It's kind of like we started off as doing something we're passionate about, and then all of a sudden you presented a problem, which is a good problem to have. It's kind of like now we have too much work and we don't have enough people, so we'll just come up with a few solutions and we'll roll with it and see how it goes. Now, whether that's because we're kind of younger and more naive, I don't know. Maybe less responsibilities in life. Maybe that helps to kind of take that risk a little bit more. But yeah, I think there's so much you've gone through there that really kind of hits home with a lot of people in our sector. But obviously, 16 years down the line, what has changed so much in that time that Future Stars has been running as an organisation? Because there's a lot changed, but what's the biggest shifts that you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, that's a long time. And yeah, I'm 100% with you. I didn't set out to be a business owner. There was a no part that I was like, this is the direction that I was going to go. It kind of just evolved of, oh, there's an opportunity here. Let's give it a go. And then I remember at some point going, well, actually, we better come up with a company name. What we actually call this thing. So that's an interesting one. And now we've got 14 different franchise territories that we've now set up. And it's quite refreshing to go back to the start of helping them of, okay, you haven't got any schools. How did you start? Where did you go? So that's been refreshing. But to answer your question, what's been the big change? I think the sports premium, we've been running for about 3 or 4 years at that point. And that coming in, we were in a fortunate position to be able to shape our offering to marry up with that sports premium. And we already had kind of all the compliance and trained, qualified coaches to kind of go in and tick all the needs. So I think that was a big change. Trying to set up programs, we call it the Legacy Project, which we still run today, which is working with those PE leads and training them on the job we were fully aware that on average, each primary school PE teacher gets 9 to 10 years of training throughout their qualification, and most of that is within a classroom. Their confidence to deliver gymnastics, their confidence to deliver dance or rugby or cricket wasn't there. So actually giving them 6 weeks of training on the job and session plans that they can keep and develop and actually watch a coach do it was a huge change. And that's probably the thing that then really made us shine through the quality of what we were offering at that point back in, I think that was 2012.
Yeah, and as business owners, there's probably points where you look at the journey and say, like, there are defining moments where we've grown. So, and over that 16-year period, there's going to be several turning points there. But is there whether you're looking at the start, in the middle, as you've kind of accelerated your own delivery, or the franchises that you've just mentioned there, is there a point you could look at that you've said there's a defining moment there that's really helped accelerate that growth?
Yeah, kind of what in hindsight, at the time I thought was the biggest challenge ever. We had a relationship, as I was saying, I worked with Bristol Rugby Club for, in the end, 9 years, doing some coaching for them. And a lot of that was within secondary and primary schools. And we got to the point they got taken over by Bristol Sport, which is now within our area doing loads of great work. And there was a point that we had a partnership with them throughout our history. And that partnership stopped or broke, and it was quite it was a scary time, to be honest. But what it did was it really made us focus on us and what we stand for and what we want to do and what we want to deliver, without having that kind of partnership. I'm not sure we've all been involved in partnerships, that there is a process you have to go through every time, just checking in what will work for them and how we can do this, and are we happy with this marketing, and if we're going to market it, what's the kit going to look like? What's the logos going to look like? Where do they sit? Who does what? Who bills the money? Etc. etc. The shackles were kind of off of like, okay, then we're now not future stars working in partnership with Bristol Sport. We're now future stars. So what's our culture? What's our values? What's our vision? Scary. I'm not going to lie. It was really scary. But the acceleration we've had from that moment, that was in 2015, has just had the freedom to just go and create and do what we actually want to do. And we've still got staff there now that have worked in both areas. We've still got around about 10 staff that were there back in the Bristol Rugby days, but also were still with us now, and we've developed. I mean, yeah, we've probably grown 10 times since that point. So, yeah, that's a defining moment for me, Paul.
Yeah, right. And what's your business look like now? So how many members of staff do you have? And then how many? You mentioned you've got 14 franchises around the country. So to get a bit more of an insight into that would be really, really interesting.
Yeah, that's fine. So from a program position, we now tick every box that a primary school would need. So we've got from your childcare offerings, we've got breakfast clubs and wraparound care. We've got 14 of those that we run every single day of the school year, 14 partner schools. We still do the legacy project, so our teacher development. We still do PPA cover, lunch clubs, small group mentoring, and holiday clubs as well. And we tap into the HAF funding and the wraparound care funding with local council as well, which has really developed it further in recent years. We've got just over 90 members of staff in our HQ, and then yes, we've got 14 different territories across the country, franchise territories, that run all of those programs that we offer here.
Amazing. And if we just lean on the franchise side of things, I know organisations in our sector have been successful. Some have tried and failed. What's been your biggest learning curve, I guess, when it comes to that? Because obviously, I think, am I right in saying that when people franchise, you potentially put your brand at risk in a way? The quality and the work, the hard work that you've put in. So, we've had people on the pod in the past who have shared various bits and pieces around that. So, what does that look like from your perspective? How have you looked at that and said, right, this is how Future Stars are going to be a leading provider and get this right?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I stalled for a long time setting that up. And I stalled probably from a trust position of, like you just said, someone taking your brand that you've worked at the time for over 10 years on, and that you're something that you're really proud of, and has been your kind of baby, to then going, okay, well, I'm then what? Then going to give all of it to someone else to run in the area. So I stalled a lot on that. My business coach, I've always had a business coach for the last 12 years. It's a lonely place being an MD, especially the sole director of it. So I had a business coach. I've been fortunate to have some really good ones over those 12 years. My last one, a guy called Barclay Harris, was on the board of the BFA, the British Franchise Association. So he was a huge part in terms of actually knowing our business and actually how do we position it. And also how do we position it, knowing my fear of the trust and the quality that we still want it to remain the same. So we spent a lot of money on the contracts in terms of how the programs and the due diligence and the minimum standards. So the compliance side, like the amount of policies we've got, they're as long as my arms, and how we've done it and how I think we've been successful in it is we provide all the in-house support for the finance. So I looked back of what do I want to do? Well, actually, if I was to start again, it's a very lonely place. I wasted a lot of time and I wasted a hell of a lot of money just trying things that didn't work. So we look like we accelerate these businesses by 4 to 5 years. The one reason is we've just spent £40,000-50,000 on a brand new bespoke booking system. So we know that works for all of our programs in terms of being able to, if people aren't paying, for example, sorry, that sounds quite negative, but you can freeze the account so they can't book unless they actually pay the debt that they owe. And then just loads of different stuff. If they see their own shop, they see their own booking, the parent in terms of what they've booked on and the past history and the future history as well, which will all be done online. So we give them that to start with. We give them all of the session plans. We give them all of the programs. But more important than that, we give them direct access to our marketing team. So anything that they need bespoke from marketing team, that we've got a file of just marketing things, that marketing through Canva that they can put out and they can use and they can adapt to suit them. They've also got a direct contact within our marketing team. They have a finance person that sends out all of their invoices for them, so that then comes through and then the money gets spat out the other end and the chase is done for us through our finance team. And they get a business development manager that they link up with who's got 20 odd years in the industry that they speak to once a week if they want to, but they have regular check-ins in terms of how to actually grow the business. I think the reason why it's been so successful is you're not on your own. Like any question you can pick up the phone, you can ask the person, not just ask me who knows a lot about all of the business, but you can ask that person who specializes in each part depending on what you need. And the growth that we've seen in that in terms of every franchisee so far that we've taken on has had the return on investment within 3 months. And they're now year on year, we've had one running 3 years and he's had growth of 200% each year for the last 3 years. So that's why I think ours is special compared to maybe some of the others that I've seen in terms of it is bespoke and it is personal. And we actually work with that person trying to even asking, what is your leadership style or what this profiling do you lead with? We actually understand that individual and we change the leadership strategy to suit that individual and to suit that area. So I think that's why it's been so successful.
Ben, you mentioned leadership styles then. So focusing in on kind of your leadership and management and the growing of your team. So 16 years is quite a long time, as you mentioned, and you've developed your large team over time and your offerings to schools as well has developed. How would you say that your individual leadership style has evolved over that time, and what lessons have you learned leading a growing team of people?
Yeah, I look back and laugh through kind of a cringing kind of face. My leadership styles changed a lot. I think I was quite volatile in my younger days. I was very impatient and very stubborn because I just wanted results. Like in this profiling terms, I lead with red. So it is all about it. It was all about the result. So yeah, I was quite impatient, and I actually thought I wanted everyone to be like me. Whereas actually, what I've actually learned is I want my kind of yin to my yang, and I want the variety of different colors and different people in different sectors. So yeah, I'm a lot more patient. I'm a lot more consistent, and I'm really clear now on. For example, we just recruited for a business development manager role, and extremely clear on the role, and clear of the expectation, and clear of the contracting piece of how that marries up with the different people within the business, whether that's going down or across. So I think, yeah, it's changed from a sense of, one, me understanding myself and taking the ego out of it a lot more. And on the other side of it, just the clarity of expectation and targets of what success looks like, and then just having regular check-ins and giving people, we have check-ins. A team meet every other week, and we have a one-to-one spot that I will give an hour and a half to every member of staff who I work with to just gauge through where they are. And that's led by them. It's not necessarily led by me, because the expectations are so clear in terms of where we are. So kind of giving someone a role and going, look, this is where we are now, but ultimately you're coming in to make it even better than it is now. And that's the task, and that's the challenge that I do, that I use. So it's changed so much. I do look back and cringe. And I'm definitely one that without self-awareness, you can't have self-development. So yeah, it's changed tenfold.
Yeah, as expected, but I guess I think we all reflect back, and probably leadership styles would definitely change over time. I guess you said you've had a coach for 12 years, and that, without a doubt, you've got someone that holds you to account as well as guides you, mentors you, teaches you, coaches you. So that's great to know. You've got to get to where you've got to get to. You've got to be a good leader. You've also got to attract and retain good people to help you get to where you've got to get to. So how have you ensured in the last 16 years that you've attracted the right people and created the culture where people want to stay?
Yeah. Do you know what? That's evolved so much, and it's just a great question. Like, back when we started out, it was mainly our own network, or the coaches that we had, our network that we tap into. Whereas obviously now with things like LinkedIn, with ChatGPT, with the use of AI, like we can go out to a broader scale and a broader market. We're now in a position that we can afford to bring in external people as well, rather than, to start with, probably for the first 8 years, we were just promoting people internally continuously. So we just kept growing. So it's like, okay, well, they're good at that, so actually let's now give them this role. And that worked sometimes, but other times it didn't work at all. So in terms of our members of staff, and we've got my first employee actually that we brought in 16 years ago to do his 5 hours of after school clubs. He's still with me now. He's our marketing. Luke's man is Dan. He's our marketing manager, and he's probably done 6 different roles within the organization. So how do we retain them? I think it helps that we're always growing, so we can always offer kind of that next step. So the journey is really clear. If you come as an apprentice, that's 4 layers up to become a senior head coach. But then there's also progression to go into management, if that's what you wish, or a marketing department, or admin, etc., etc. So I think from a retention point of view, we have every single member of staff now has a direct report. So they have someone that they can go to with any issues, and they get check-ins at least once a month with regards to just how are you getting on, is there any support you need, etc., etc. And then there's a 2 performance development plan, performance reviews every 6 months throughout the year. And again, that marries up with clear expectations at the front of the year, when that's clear expectations from the school of them making it really clear what they see as success, or PE within that school, or childcare within that school. That's also married up with where we see their development plan for every single member of staff. And we do that for every single member of staff. And that's on their terms. So for example, some will have growth, it goes like that, and sorts back down in terms of promotion. And some will sit, and they want to sit maybe as a senior head coach, keep delivering sport within schools. And it's about making that the space them of, okay, that's great, but how do we keep developing you? How do you want to develop? And how do we evolve as we go through? So I think it's really bespoke, really, to answer your question.
The phrase "what gets measured gets managed" was coined by the American management consultant Pete Drucker over 40 years ago. Although there have been some alternatives to this phrase, one that resonates with me is "what gets measured gets improved."
In recent years, this alternative phrase has gained popularity, emphasising the idea that measuring progress is crucial to achieving improvement.
Scorecards are a great way to highlight your strengths and identify blind spots in your organisation, while providing instant, actionable steps on how you can improve that needs improving.
So, how does your organisation measure up?
Head to capscorecard.scoreup.com
and take approximately 5 minutes to answer some yes/no questions. Once you've done that, you will get an instant personalized report tailored to your organization with clear, actionable steps. And it's totally free.
That's capscorecard.scoreapp.com, and the link will be in the show notes too.
Absolutely. And I think when you have got that opportunity for people to wear that structure to be there, it's absolutely brilliant. And the one key skill, I think, is the delegation side of it. So when we speak to people, not just on the pod, but people, leaders from the sector, stem from poor delegation is such a key skill. How have you approached building a team that you can trust, Ben, and that can run with things so then you can focus on the bigger picture or focus on things like the franchise element as you've grown that over the last few years?
Yeah, I think it's going back to really clear expectation at the front end, in really clear targets, really clear expectation. We do something called a team code, usually at our CPD each year, which is basically around kind of how we're going to work with each other. Things like respect, things like a 24 working hour response. So, for example, if we sent an email out, we would expect a response within 24 working hours. So kind of those non-negotiables really, just in terms of culture, that has really advanced us and looking at what all everybody's values are and actually how are we going to work together as we've evolved and as we've grown. I'm sure you were the same. I think when we went from 20 people back years ago, and then we tried to implement a structure, it's really difficult going from everything went through me to actually now not everything goes through me. And we had to really implement a really clear structure with roles and boundaries and the kind of reporting lines, which did really help. We kind of probably went through periods where we ripped them up, added it, and then changed it, and when actually no, that doesn't work for our individuals because they don't feel like they've got enough of a voice. So we've really tried to bring that back up so that all of our staff can speak to our SLT whenever they need really, and have the voice if there's something they want a voice. And regular checkups and regular bi-internally CPDs where we get the whole team together as well.
During that time, have you had to learn to kind of let go? Because you mentioned that before everything would come to you and all the decisions were on you, whereas now you've managed to delegate to others. Have you gone through the process of, being comfortable letting go and trusting people to go off with things and they don't have to always come back to you to check?
That's still a challenge for me. I want to be completely honest. I'm someone who really likes to create the future, but I also like the hustle and bustle of managing the present. So, which is quite, from speaking, I've done a bit of professional coaching for the last 7 years with MBA students and with businesses. And I think that usually it's either one or the other. I think 80% of people are, 20% of people are creating the future, whereas 80% of people are managing the present. To actually enjoy both of them at times has been kind of my biggest superpower, but maybe my kryptonite as well, in the sense of you sometimes get absorbed in the day-to-day run-ins that actually I should be focusing on moving the business forward from a kind of a higher position. But I love people. I'm intrigued by the psychology of people. I did psychology at AS level and didn't get a very good grade, but I loved every minute of it. And so I'm intrigued by that. So I think that is my biggest challenge, and speaking to my business coach at the moment, that's something that I'm working on, that actually I will manage the kind of the 5 key positions and have 5 direct reports, rather than sometimes coming down a bit lower within the organization and overseeing and getting involved in stuff that I should let go. I did have that. We had somebody went off on mat leave over a year ago now. And they come back to a position that isn't as full-time. They were full-time and it's not now full-time. So that's been a challenge with that, and something that we're trying to reshape at the moment. And I'm sure you guys have been through that, where something happens or you have big growth or someone leaves or someone's off for a period of time. And you have to crack on and just go with it and try and do what you can do and move along through. But I think now is the point where I've had to stop and reflect, be at a big board meeting on Wednesday, and just go, okay, this is the right period of time. What's the strategy? What's the action? How are we going to go about moving forward and have another era of Future Stars where we really push on?
I think that's the joy of small business, Ben. I think that as much as owners want to focus on the big picture and do that on a daily basis, it's not impossible to do that. And I think when you're passionate about the business, it's sometimes not a bad thing, like dipping back in now and then. Whether that's me coming at it from your perspective, the fact that I sometimes enjoy doing that, I don't know. But I think it shows that you care. And I think it can be quite easy for some organisations where you have someone that sits at the top and they're never seen, they're never heard from, and it's kind of like, who's this person? What do they do? That could quite easily happen, I think, and it does happen in a lot of small businesses, not just in our sector, but in lots of sectors. So, yeah, I completely get where you're coming from, but at the same time, I don't think it's a bad thing. I think I can tell from the 30 minutes so far, you're very, very passionate about what you do and the business that you've grown and created. You don't want to lose that, do you? You want to keep that. You want to keep that going. So,
and it's not like I want to be proud of it. I'm sure, like you guys, like I want to, like I'm really proud that we positively affect 25,000 children a week, and my driver is to affect thousands more every week across the country, and not to be selfish and give them those programs that we know work and that are no good. Like the reason why we're here probably today is the fact that actually, because I stepped back in and looked at more of our PE delivery, I came and spoke to Luke and said, actually, I think you should marry up with UCP Curriculum Plus, for example, through yourselves, because I think that's the best on the market. Now, without me stepping back in, I wouldn't have probably been spotting that. So I think, like you're saying, Paul, there's always some good to come for it. And it's not about me the next day or kind of sitting and just having an overview. It's about a period of time then having a deeper dive and looking into the different areas and going, okay, let's really get stuck into that and actually see where we are. And sometimes you look at it and you're like, blimey, that's great. Like there's nothing for me to do that can make the wheel go faster. But sometimes you're like, oh, actually, we could develop that, or there's another opportunity over here that we could do. And that for me is fun and exciting, and that's what makes it go faster. I think I was listening to a podcast with about Elon Musk, but I think that's what he does with all of his businesses, that he will dive in and go, well, what's the problem at the moment? And whatever that key problem is, I'm going to go in and spend some time and look at it, and then I'm going to take some action, and then he'll step back out. And he does that across multiple businesses. So, yeah, I'm with you. I think sometimes really healthy to do that.
Ben, you mentioned 16 years ago now you had that drink with a friend, and then the day after you walked around those local schools speaking with head teachers, and without me knowing the exact numbers, I imagine there were less competitors back then, whereas now the sport, children's activity sector is very competitive. It seems like every time a new part of funding comes out, new businesses enter the sector. And how have you kept Future Stars relevant and ahead of that competition?
Not only just through developing our offering, so developing the quality of the products that we've already got and then adding new products in. 8 years ago, we didn't have wraparound care, for example. And then that was an offering that we've added on. So actually our schools within our HQ area has pretty much stayed the same over the last kind of 4 years. We're around about 40 schools a week that we work in. But actually, if you're looking at revenue and the amount of programs that we're using, that's grown by 20% year on year for the last 4 years. So, predominantly just the quality of what we're offering and other avenues and other areas that we can offer within that school that we're in. We're really in an exciting position now that the foundation is set, but we are actually going to, for the first time in 4 years, actually put some marketing out there to attract more schools within our area, which we haven't done for 4 years, because for me, I was just getting the foundation right. So now with the setup and what we've got a back office team of 13, and with managers in different areas. So we're now at the point that we can go and kind of, don't want to say the word aggressively, but we can push ourselves out there and take on more work within more schools now.
Ben, what's your marketing manager been doing for 4 years if you've not put any marketing out? I don't want to get him in trouble.
No, he's done a lot, and each year we've gained more schools. And each year we gain more programs within the more schools. So things like the half funding that came out, we've been looking at that and how we build actually the numbers of children that we're working with within the schools. We're working now with more children within all of those schools. So that was kind of the strategy that we went through. And yeah, it's just kind of been a organic one that we haven't been aggressive at all on new business. We've literally just picked it up organically through working with partner schools and different people, and grading the programs that we've done with it, to be their key provider for every single thing that they offer from sport and childcare.
Yeah, which is a really strong position to be in, and hopefully, fingers crossed for you going forwards. That focus on campaigns will bring even more your way. So what does that look like, Ben? The future. Sometimes it's a difficult question for some people. This, but what does it look like in 3 years? Where's Future Stars going?
I'll do one from HQ. So our HQ within North Somerset, Bristol, and South Cross Council. We're looking to grow that out for even more, work with more schools within that area, and work with thousands more children a week. And then on the side of that, we want to, within the next 4 years, get to 50 franchise areas being sold. We're above the target on that in terms of where we're at the moment, and that's where we want to be within the next 3-4 years.
Great stuff. And reflecting back to the very start of the journey, what one piece of advice would you give Ben back 16 years ago?
It would be take your ego out of it, and it would be take action rather than procrastinating on it. I think they would be the two key things, and link up with people that you trust, but people that you respect and you will listen to, because there's a lot of good people out there who will give you advice, usually for the sake of buying them a beer or having a coffee with them. So yeah, but then actually respect that. And at points, like, I definitely feel like the value of people who've given us anything back in the day, I've hugely been paid that favor now, and will give them something back as when the timing is right. I've not used that and then gone, oh, okay, that's great, cheers, then see you later. Like, then as it comes back, I don't know, whatever it is, but making sure that they realize how thankful you are of the part that they've played with on that journey. And I still will have a beer with my I keep saying beers. I don't have that many beers anymore. I've got 2 kids, but a coffee, let's say, with my original business coach from 13 years ago, and say, look, even though you were at that point, buy me probably send over $100,000. Look, thanks for what you did there, because that was a key part of the journey. And whenever you need anything now, I'll give you what I can give you. So yeah, that's sorry, I rambled on a bit there, but yeah, take your ego out of it, take action, and link with people, and trust in people.
It's amazing. But thank you so much for sharing your journey, sharing the growth that Future Stars have had to date, and being honest as well in terms of the headaches. Everyone has them, but how you've overcome them is really inspirational. And best of luck engaging the extra thousands of children you want to a week, and the growth of your franchises as well, and the 50 territory target. If people are listening to the pod and wanted to connect with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, through LinkedIn is probably the best thing. So yeah, I'm on there. There aren't many Ben Hazeldines. Well, I don't think there's another one. So yeah, link up with me on that. And yeah, I'm more than happy to connect with anyone. And if I can offer my support, then I'll try my best.
Ben, I'd just like to echo. It's the first time we've actually met. I think it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. And going back to what you said, I think there'd definitely be someone that would grab a coffee with, or have a beer, or a cider maybe.
Yeah,
not that I'm stereotyping.
No, you're right now.
No, it's been really good. And I echo what Luke said there. It's some really good insights, and hopefully it's been nice just to kind of reflect back on the last 16 years. I wish you all the very best. Before you go, there's one more thing I'd like to flag out, because I've seen on LinkedIn, it might have been a few years ago now, but you own a racehorse, don't you? So I'd be keen to like know what, I know nothing about horse racing at all.
Yeah, no, so I had a horse with a friend about 10 years ago, and we owned, well, there's 4 of us that owned a leg each of a horse. And then me and one of the guys set up a syndicate. So racing syndicate, we've now got 24 horses within training all with Michael Atwater in Epsom. And yeah, we've got runners every week all the way around the country. We got 2 at Newcastle on Monday. And yeah, we basically offer that. So people buy 5 or 10%, sometimes a bit more of each horse. And there's just the one-off cost at the front end and then a monthly subscription. So there's no hidden costs. So yeah, that's one of my hobbies, I suppose, or passions outside of the business. So yeah, no, it's good fun. And I'm at Cheltenham next week. So yeah,
I bet you are.
it's a big week next week.
Good stuff. Good luck. Good luck to you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, Ben. Cheers, Paul. Thank you, Luke, as well. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ben. Thank you.
Let's work together to get more people more active more often.